Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Roaring Agents podcast. Today, I'm here with Bill Dolan. He is the author of 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing. He's an Emmy-nominated TV director. He's an author and a speaker, and I am so happy to have him here today. Before we get started, I just want to say, Bill, that I got to work with you in some different situations, be around you, and you're probably the first person who I saw that was a fantastic leader. And I don't know if I've
Wow.
ever had a chance to say that to you, but to see you and how you were handling different things impressed me many, many years ago. And I just want to make sure that gets said.
Wow. Well, you've wrecked me for the rest of this talk. Now I'm emotional. Mike, that is very crazy, crazy kind of you. And I really do I take that to heart. I will try to live up to that, at least for the duration of our time together.
I appreciate it. So you have been marketing forever.
Mhm.
Um, and you are great at it. And you have your book, 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing. Real estate, I feel, is about relationships. I don't really like the transactional tactics that a lot of agents have. And I see where those fall apart. And so usually the people who are listening to me, people who I deal with, are into relationship marketing. Help us, help us, Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's that um, real estate, and really, it's not just real estate. It's those things that are some of the most important, consequential events in our life. At the heart of them, they happen and they become better when they are surrounded by relationship, by people who know, love, and care about them. And in the case of complex experience of life, have someone who could mentor them and guide them. Because as you know, you see every day, real estate is complex. The risks of making bad decisions uh, can be crazy. And so being in a place where you're surrounded by people who can guide them, help them get to those intersections of decision and walk them through it, take them by the hand and move them to ultimately the goal that most of your clients might want, and that's to find a home, a place I can call home. Now, I'm not talking about just investment side because there's investment sides too, but for the vast majority, it's I want a home. And that's so personal. Now, can you do that with a transaction? Can you do that online? Can you do it through? But of course you can. But it will never, ever be a substitute for having a genuine expert mentor who removes the anxiety, brings them a sense of comfort, guides them with a sense of peace, and helps them not just make a good decision, but a great decision that they don't regret. And by the way, will then rave about you and allow you to help other people. And that only happens through relationship.
How how do we build those relationships while still trying to get business done? That fine line of I'd like to get to know you, I'd like to be in a relationship, but I need work. I need closings. How do we balance me and you in a relationship like that?
Well, it definitely is. There's tension there, especially today, between all the tech tools and AI, and somehow we think that, oh, good business is efficient business, and it's because I'm going to reach more people and fill my funnel. It's not to say that those things don't matter, but ultimately, the difference that we make in our life is not going to be measured by the transactions we perform, but by the rich relationships we develop, the lives we impact, the difference we make. And that's one of the most powerful things about real estate. I still remember my first real estate transaction, and I still remember my hands just sweating as I was signing this document for a 30-year mortgage and thinking, oh my gosh, I am going to be so old. I'm making crazy decision. What am I going to, well, needless to say, it's been more than 30 years. So I am that old guy I was afraid of. But having someone with me during that journey made a big difference. And then the same thing when I bought my next home and my next home. Um, the platinum rule, which I think most of us have heard, or maybe we've heard the golden rule, treat others as you would wish to be treated. The platinum rule raises the bar. And it really says, if you really want to live a life that has a profound impact on the lives of others and not just measure it by transactions, do unto others as they would want done unto them. And that requires that you don't just conduct the business, but you lean in to the business. You lean into them. You listen to their head. You listen to their heart. And real estate agents have a very unique place to be able to address things that virtually no other business can address. Chances are, if someone's moving, it's for a reason. Maybe it's because of a dream, or maybe it's because of a nightmare. Maybe it's because of a great aspiration, a great hope of what could be, or maybe it was the desperate loss of something. Either way, the fact that someone has to move and they're about to move into a major transaction, a real estate agent has a unique place to be more than a business partner, possibly a friend. And I can't tell you how much priority you put on that. But this is what I can say. If you want a transaction, use the tools, be efficient, get the paperwork done, show them the listings, do the transaction. But if you want an intensely rich, rewarding career that allows you to know you've made a profound difference in lives, and people don't just remember your commission, they remember your heart, you're going to think about relationship, and you're going to find that platinum rule to say, how can I honor you and love you and respect you the way you want to be respected through a very profound or maybe difficult time?
Wow. That's pretty profound. I hope everyone listens to that twice. Storytelling is important. There are somewhere around 9,000 agents in the Portland area. There's 1.5 million realtors and then more real estate agents. Storytelling is important. How do I tell a story when I'm got so many other people telling stories and we're all selling the same product?
Well, it's interesting you say story, because obviously in my business and creative industry, we're all about story. Story. But let me just clarify a couple things about story. Story at its heart is about packaging something in a way that we like to digest it. It's like, going back to real estate, we could basically say, here's a slab of meat and here's the potatoes, cook it, prepare it, cut it up, and have a ball with it. But a story is like taking it and sauteing it a certain way. It's cutting it a certain way. It's presenting it a certain way. It's the type of thing that makes things more palatable, more fun, more exciting, and certainly more memorable. And the beauty of that story is, when you tell story, is that you want to tell a story that's meaningful for your client. And that's where relationship comes in. If you're telling the same stories, like, wow, back in the day, kind of thing, I mean, those are kind of interesting. But a story that is unique and relevant to your audience means that you've leaned in, you've listened, you've understood, and a story becomes a bridge to a gift of understanding, a gift of knowledge. And that's where stories become crazy powerful. Now, don't want to hammer this relationship thing too hard, but let me say this, that when we conduct transactions, we're basically dealing with the front left cortex. It's data driven. We're making decisions. It's pretty digital. Yes, no, 1, 0, boom, boom, boom. However, when you're making a major decision, you don't just deal with it here. You pretend to. I'm being logical, blah, blah, blah. But we're dealing with it in the limbic system. We're dealing with it against the context of thousands of experiences that we've had that are either going to be a filter that gives us clarity, or it's going to distort it like a fun house set of mirrors. When you walk through, you go, oh my gosh, I don't look like that. But guess what? The things that happen in a real estate transaction, a relationship, sometimes look like a house of mirrors. And sometimes you have to navigate that, but you only navigate that if you're with them, if you're able to understand them. And so there's a deeper thing that can happen in a relationship that can, and let's just talk from the business side, can turn into referral after referral after referral. Is that experience not only connects with them, but that you actually create emotional tattoos. It's not just a filter through which they process, it's a filter through which they define you. It's a filter through which they define your unique experience. It's because you didn't just deliver on a product, you cared, you showed up, you over delivered. And so if you look at, there's 3 levels. I'm going to write about this in my next book. You need to inform them with data, front left cortex. You need to inform them with the sense of feeling and the filter through which they view things. That's the limbic system. However, if you really want to blow them away, create an experience for them. And let me explain just a little bit why. Is because we have senses, sight, sound, hearing here. There's 5 of them, okay? Every one of them is feeding data boom, right into your limbic system, which is then being interpreted into that means this. If you just give them paper to read, that's one piece that goes in. You give them something that they smell. Now you're giving 2 senses coming in. You give them something they see, it's 3. Give them something they hear, it's 4. What happens is layer upon layer when you and only you have the unique power to create an experience. You will more than tattoo. You will literally excite their brain and help them remember this experience like no other. And that's one of the reasons our business, we also do experiences. We do shows and we've done things with big artists and things like that. And he said, why does these big artists have to spend millions of dollars on these giant arena shows? One, because they're big artists and they're artists and they love to express at a big level. But they've learned that they have a unique opportunity to consume your senses and give you a powerful gift that you will remember for the rest of your life. Now, you might not be doing a concert tour, but when you're one-on-one with that client, you have the exact same opportunity. And that's where story and experiences play. And guess what? You can't do that through AI.
What you're talking about is there's a phrase that I say quite often. I'm not sure where I got it, but is we make decisions based on emotion and backfill with logic. We all think we're much more logical than we are, but it always comes down to emotion for the most part.
Oh, totally. It's this giant filter that everything goes through. And I mean, let's face it, every day there's some event that's happening on the street. And there's going to be eyewitnesses. And one eyewitness is going to see this. And another eyewitness is going to see this. And both of them think they saw what they saw, and these are the facts, and that's it, and they'll testify to that. But the truth is, every single eyewitness, every single experience, we will filter through the context of our emotions and our experiences, and sometimes a house of mirrors. And you're right. At the end of it, a sentence comes out and we say, and those are the facts. And then the next person will come out and say, oh, those are my facts. That's why we hear people say the term my truth. My truth. I honestly struggle with that term because I like to think if something happened, something happened. But we do call it my truth because we make decisions and come to conclusions through a house of mirrors. And so it does become your truth. So I won't argue with you when you say, I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny, or whatever it is. Whatever it is that we see in that house of mirrors, I'm not going to argue with you because it's truly what you see.
So I work with a lot of new agents and part-time agents with limited resources or limited time. How do they just get the word out? Because, you need the client before you can give them an experience in some cases, but how do they tell a story when they're new, when they're just trying to get people to pay attention to them?
Well, the first thing, and it reminds me of a book I reference in my own book. I love it. It's called The Like Switch, Like switch. And it was written by a gentleman who used to be an agent. like a secret agent kind of guy. And one of his roles was to take agents from foreign countries and to turn them into double agents for our country. Fascinating stuff.
Huh.
And he writes in the book that there's four key things. And he didn't realize how popular this was because he thought those secret agents. I mean, virtually every government does some form of espionage. And these are some of the classic ways. But he didn't realize he was onto something until he started teaching a college class after he'd retired. And he noticed some of the young guys, the really handsome guys, started showing up in the front row. And they'd come early. And he had some time. He said, I'm just curious, you guys, I don't know if you're interested in the military or interested in, working in secret services or whatever like that. I'm just curious, why are you taking this class? I said, don't you know? He said, no. He said, this is a class where you learn how to pick up chicks. He said, what? He said, yeah, everybody knows that when we apply your formula, it's great for picking up the ladies because they love it. And he started to think about it and realized, yeah, there really is a formula where deep relationships, so much so you could have somebody turn on their country, could exist. Now, you don't have to have people turn on their country, but these four steps. And let me preface this by saying, relationships are hard. Mm. You're not going to just slide into this like, oh, it's going to be easy or whatever. If you've heard stories of it easy, that is the oddball situation. Relationships, being successful in this field is hard, but you put in the work and you persevere and you learn and you grow in your craft, you will see the results. Now, as to those four steps, the very first one, when he wanted to form a relationship with someone, he said, number one, show up, be present. You can't form a relationship with someone you've never seen or you don't know. And in the case of the best way to show up, it's actually physical. And if you think back to some of your best friends in all your life, try to think, what has been the common denominator between these relationships? I went to school with them. I worked with them. I went to a club or a church or whatever it was. There's a proximity element that's critical to relationships. And so to think that we can do great business and form relationships without creating either very personal, real proximity or digital proximity, we're going to miss the first important step. So that is the first thing. Put the work in to showing up to the lives and the people that you feel you can best serve. Okay, number one. And I'm not going to get in technique, but I'll do that. Number two is frequency. Show up frequently. This is the same thing we used to do in advertising. We still do in advertising. I was explaining to somebody the other day about how television stations and networks and all these things, they look like they're in the business of turning on programming and entertaining us. No, they're in the business of selling advertising. That's their business, is to sell advertising. And so all the programming is really about acquiring eyeballs so that they can sell them to somebody else. And we know that part of the ad campaign we have to do with somebody is not only to show up on my network to the audience you want, but I need to show up frequently enough, it starts to click. There used to be a thing called the seven touch rule. It actually goes back to the Depression era, and there's reasons why but it does work. Showing up, proximity, frequency starts to create that memory and that connection. So whatever you decide to do, don't think that you could show up once and disappear. No one formed a deep relationship by disappearing. In fact, the opposite happened. Show up and disappear, not so good. Show up and continue to show up is powerful. Now, the next thing, third step, is duration. Make sure that the places you go and the things you do open up opportunities for you to have more than just a second, or what we call awareness. A lot of businesses build their business around what they call awareness, and because they see a Coca-Cola commercial and they go, oh, Coca-Cola, they just pop a bottle and someone goes, and that's advertising. Yeah, that's advertising, but that's not really an awareness campaign. That's a multi-billion-dollar behemoth. They're doing a reminding campaign. When you see those spots, the essence of them is not the front end of the funnel creating awareness 99% of the time. What they're doing is making sure that you don't forget us, not awareness. And so trying to duplicate that type of style has this much value because it might do a touch of awareness, but it doesn't have any depth because they have no understanding. They have no learning. They have no context. They have no differentiation about you versus somebody else. So find places where you can have length of time with people. But the fourth one is intimacy. And intimacy is basically me unlocking my heart and opening it up and sharing it with you. And the only people that open their heart and share it with you, because we know that that puts us in a very vulnerable place, are people that trust you and you trust them. And that is a foundation to every great relationship. And sometimes it starts with something small. But when you start talking about story, Mike, what are the stories that are going to be meaningful? Sometimes stories of struggle, stories that connect back to the feelings they might have: fear, courage, making life decisions, being in an intersection where they made a bad decision, being in an intersection where they're able to correct that, being at a point where they found somebody who came into their life and was just the right time. So the stories that we can tell should be ours. And when they are ours and they're vulnerable and they're honest, that is one of the highest level of creating a relationship. And guess what? Sorry, I'll shut up here in a minute here.
I'm loving it.
Here's the thing is that God gave you a fingerprint, okay? That's you. Only you have it. Only you have. There's no one in the world who has it, okay? And it used to be that we used it to solve crimes. To say, well, there's a fingerprint. We now use it to open up safes, to open up doors, to open up places, because we understand that no one can duplicate that. Now, there's a lot, if I'm a criminal, I might spend my time filing it down and trying to get rid of it. And those of us in the marketing, the business world, often try to file down our own fingerprints to make them look like others. We copy, we pretend, we use the AI tools and paste out these homogenized, intimate messages because that's what we're supposed to do. But your story is unique to you. There's no one that can impact a life the way you can. There's no one who could share an experience the way you can. And there's people in this world that will have a profound experience because they have the privilege of working only with you. And when you recognize that, it becomes like a matchmaking service, multiplied over and over again, where rich relationships are built, profound transactions are experienced, and lasting relationships are born and continue. And to me, that's the heart of the privilege we all have in business, is we get to do something profound. And if we do it well enough, other people say, would you do that again? And could you do that for my friend? And that's kind of the different take on that, if that makes sense, Mike.
That was great. I'm just thinking, I'm just going to replay this once we get done. That was fantastic. In our last few minutes here, I do want to talk about your book, 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing. What are just a few bullet points that, I mean, really, why should someone pick it up? What will a real estate agent get out of it? What will connect with them?
Well, I say there's a lot of things. First, the thing that makes this particular book and my story different. Yeah, I've born and grew up as a television director, worked in the entertainment world. So I've been around large scale marketing and sales and entertainment and creating experience and things like that. But I think the reason this book is different, it's not just a how-to, but it's rooted in the fact that back in 1999, while flying to Nashville so that I could sign a deal on a documentary project, I was not feeling well. And I couldn't put my finger on it. But about 20 minutes in the flight, I turned to my buddy, because as if everything was closing in on me. I said, Tim, something's not right. Now, this should have been one of the greatest days of my life, because my life was about to change. I was about to make a ton of money, and the nature and the style of my work was going to change. And I had that sense of anticipation. But when I turned to Tim and I said, something's not right, that's the last thing I said before my eyes rolled back in my head and my arms flopped down by my side and my heart stopped.
Wow.
Now, Tim did not know CPR. In fact, it kind of freaked him out, but he knew something was desperately wrong. So he began doing chest compressions and banging stuff on my chest, and that didn't work. And Tim's a giant guy. I'm built like a leprechaun. He's built like an NFL linebacker. So he literally picked me up and put me in the aisle and began pounding my chest, trying to get me to come back. And as Tim describes it to me, he got to the point where he pulled his fist back. He was ready to break my ribs. And as he pulled his fist back, I took a breath. Now, look, all of us have had death experiences. And then when I say death, sometimes it's the death of your dreams, might be the death of a relationship, death of your finances. Sometimes the death of a loved one, and sometimes, in my case, it was my own physical death. But the thing that was so powerful is, and I had a very, very profound after-death experience, totally blew up my paradigm of God and the divine and everything. It just blew me up, and that's another story. And I mention it in the book, what I experienced. But what I experienced afterwards was I recognized, and the reason I talk about relationship is that when we do close our eyes for the last time, those minutes or seconds, we're not going to be counting the trophies that we won for the sales award. We're not going to be counting, the cash that's loaded up in the bank or anything. We're going to be treasuring not only those relationships that we've had, that we have, but praying that we didn't just exist, we left a legacy. And I learned that there's two things for me that can't be a greater legacy. The first one is love, and truly, truly loving with all your heart. And I mean loving with all your heart. We have here in our office, our agency, we have a principle called 360-degree love. And every action we do is an act of love, even sometimes when they're hard and they don't look like love, but they're rooted in love. But the second is the recognition that love can only be expressed in relationship. And when you and I have the privilege of having relationship, it is the purest opportunity to live love and to create a really lasting legacy. And for those of us who have businesses that allow us to form rich relationships, we are richer than rich. We have more opportunity than many people have in this world to leave a lasting legacy. And that would be really my hope for you or anybody in this business, is that when you read my book, I'm going to walk you through not only 7 disciplines that really are foundational to relationship marketing, but I'm going to emphasize right out of the gate, creating a mission manifesto that starts you on a framework that says, what is my purpose? What are the missions I need to accomplish? What is the vision? What's the fulfillment of that purpose look like? What are the values in the framework? And how I set goals and accountability to do that? It's not just a willy-nilly thing like, gee, I'm going to set my goals. They are driven around the essence of who you are. So it's not just crafting a brand, it's helping you discover your brand soul. And when you know and love you, it will empower you to truly love others in a way that nobody else can.
Man, that's fantastic. We're up against the time, so I want to respect your time. I appreciate so much that you were here today. And maybe we'll be able to do this again.
I would love to, Mike. You know, I love you and respect you so much. What you started with like blew me away. But I have so much respect for you and love what you're doing. And so you know, you always have me in your back pocket. I'm always here for you.
If anyone wants to reach out to you for your marketing, whatever, what's the best way to reach you?
I'm an easy. Our company, our agency is Spirit Media at spiritmedia.com. The book is The 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing on Amazon, or you could go to 7drm.com. But feel free, you can find me on LinkedIn and just DM me. I try to be very responsible, respond to my DMs, schedule a meeting, whatever I can be a resource. I'm here for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike. Take care.